Torah in the Parsha of Shlach, and we'll do the Maimer Parshas Nesachim Ksiv. So he says like this: the Parshas Nesachim Ksiv ki savoyu el eretz meishveseichem chulu va'asisem isha laHashem oila v'goymer. The pasuk discusses over there about the different libations that you bring. You bring a mincha, you bring a nesachim when you bring a korban. But the pasuk starts over there a little bit different than usually. It says when you come to the land that you will be settled. Usually it says Eretz Canaan, the land of Eretz Yisrael, but over here it calls it the land Moshe Seichem. So we need to understand the opening question is Lomo Shino Hakosov Liikutei Eretz Yisrael Kan. How come the pasuk changes to refer to Eretz Yisrael here? B'shem Eretz Moshe Seichem. It calls it the land that your settlement. This is Yoser Mibchol Torah. This is more than in all the Torah. Shenikra Eretz Canaan. In the Torah calls it a land of Canaan. Here the Torah says Eretz Moshe Seichem. The Kushizu, he says in the Medrash, it seems like the word Eretz over here, land, references the idea of Rotzen. Eretz from the Lashon Rotzen. He says Kushizu mevuar b'Medrash Soy Parsha Shlach. This is explained in the Medrash end of Shlach. Va'ayin oid b'Kaelas Rabbe, in the Kaelas Rabbe on the Posik, al Posik Gdalti Maisai, so he quotes from this Posik over there. And also there's a Posik that says, this is in Kahelas. Drink the wine, for Hashem has already appeased what you're doing. So he teaches over there, this pasuk, because the libation was made with wine. They poured it on the mizbeach. So that means drink with a good heart. The wine is referring to the nisuch hayayin. Then the end of the pasuk, it says, for Hashem has already appeased you. Yisrael la'oretz, that is entering to the land. Shenemar kisavoy la'oretz. So he says, what does it mean entering the oretz? V'nira shepirshu eretz meloshen rotzen. So it comes out from these midrashim that they translate the eretz Moshe Seichem. You've reached the level of rotzen. Eretz meloshen rotzen. V'cheinu bepardes be'erka kenoim erech. Eretz over there, also in the Paris that can Erech Eretz. V'aymash kos is a pasuk v'ha'oretz hadim ragloi. V'apasuk hayom hazeh shemol tzaf. Okay, this is references over there. It says Hine Omer Azal. Our sages of blessed memory tell us in Perek Beis the Brachas in the second chapter of the Masechta Brachas says like this. So he goes away now to another idea. He's going to explain actually what exactly is the korban, what exactly is the mincha and nesachim, according to the Ruchnistic idea. First, he's going to explain the korban, what you take, the korban that you take the fire and you burn the korban, what it means in the spiritual navayda. And then he'll explain what the mincha, the nesa. But first he quotes from our sages of blessed memory in brachas. It says like this: Kol hakoyre kriyas Shema b'lo tefillin. If you read the Shema without the tefillin, so in the Shema, basically it says that you should tie him around your hand. So there's another statement that says you are saying false testimony. You say tie around your hand. But in this case, the Gemara says if you read Shema And you don't see tefillin is ki'ilu hikriv oila, as if you're bringing a burnt offering below mincha. You didn't bring along a mincha. So the Shema is like the burnt offering. And the tefillin is the mincha. So if you did the Shema without tefillin, it's like bringing a korban oila. You don't bring the mincha, or zevach, that's the offering that gets below נסכים without the libations. So b'tzorich lahavin inyan dimyin zeh shemedame kriya shema loila. What is this comparison that we're saying that kriya shema is like the oila b'zevach? It's considered like a burnt offering and a zevach, and a regular offering a shlomim. Utefillin is compared lemincha נסכים. That's the mincha, that's the meal offering and the libation. So what's the connection? So this is all what he wants to bring out. The reason he's bringing it down, he wants to say that the Shema has to do like with the korbanos. That the Shema, here we see that the Shema is like an oila, like a zevach. So what's the connection between Shema and the korban? And then what's the comparison? The tefillin for a mincha נסכים. Oh, so he says, let's see. Let's see, what is the korbanos? The idea of the korbanos that a fire descended from the heavens onto the mizbeach. It consumed the oil of the burnt offering and the fat of the shlom. So this is really what the Shema is. So this is actually the same idea by Shema. Shema has a very similar idea in which we basically burn the korban. A person is made up from the four elements. So you have the four elements. Because we have four elements, which is what? Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Ofer. So not all the times any of these ones are overwhelming. Because sometimes the Eish, sometimes the Ruach, sometimes the Mayim. Four different elements. Over there, sheheim bechinas doimim tzemeach chai umedaber. Those are in the world we know we have inanimate growing, the living, and the speaking. So, and they correspond. Keneged daled oisios shel shem havaya baruch hu, corresponding to the four-letter Yud K Vav K. So you have doimim tzemeach chai umedaber. Shemishom, from these four letters of the Shem Havai, Nimshchum and Nishava B'chinas Elu, these levels have extended and they created, brought into being the Doimim Tzemech Chaim Medaber from the four letters of the Shem Havai. U'b'chinas Yisoy Da'esh, U'b'chinas Achai. So the fire is the Chai. The Medaber is the Ruach Mamallo, but the fire is like the Chai, is like the living. Yes? Yeah. So the point here is that he wants to say that when we talk about Chai, he basically wants to talk about Chai. He wants to talk about that Chai is the level of Eish. Eish Ruach Mayim Ofor, which is connected them Tzemech Chaim Medaber. So when we talk about an animal, we're talking about the level of Eish. That's the idea of here. Oh, so the Eish that we're talking about over here. So we're talking about a person has the various different levels, but the level of Chai is the level of Eish, the same element. So he's going to say now like this: the Malachim, they're also considered like the level of Chai. because we call them v'chayis hakodesh. When we find them v'chay, they're like animals, chayis hakodesh, in the spiritual level. So by them, it's also the level of Eish. And because they have the level of Eish, they're always Eish. That's their level. So that's why the Malachim are always standing in a great, tremendous level of fire, which as the Neshama is sometimes, the person, sometimes he's a level of Eish and sometimes not. And that's the idea of the Korban, to burn, to bring about that Eish, to burn the Eish. Let's look inside. Hine ksiv Serafim Oimdim. Serafim, what is Serafim? Serafim means burned, those burned, they're standing. This is a reference to Malachim that are called Serafim. Sheyesh b'chinas Malachim b'chayis HaKodesh shenikroim Serafim. There are angels and these holy animals, the Chayis HaKodesh, they're called Serafim. That's Serafim Oimdim. The pasuk is talking about Serafim. These are the Serafim. Why are they called Serafim? Nikroim Serafim. We call them Serafim. Mipnei shehem yisoida eish haliki. Because they are from the element of the godly fire. And they're always standing in this excitement, this fiery excitement. They only have one thought all their days. They think about one thing. From the days of creation, when they were created, they only think about one thing. What is it? Shemasigim rak ziv shchinosi yizbarach hamachayim hava isman liyesh. They grasp. That's their thought that they have all the time. They understand that the array of the blessed divine vitalizes them, brings them in from nothing into existence. That's what they know. And therefore, and that's why they will never be silent. They're never quiet. They're always be hislavus. They're always hislavus because they always realize that they are created by Yesh. That's why they are serafim. That's why these malachim are called serafim. V'hainu, and that is mipnei she'en lahem ki'im yisoid echad pashut. They only have one simple element. It's not a combined element. It's not a murkav. It's not combination. Shu yisoid eish haliki. There is the element of the godly fire. Ve'eina murkav. Ay mashakosu b'biur ve'eina ve'is ma'koyin alechem habikur. Yeah. As opposed to the person, the person is made up from 4 elements. So it's not always the same. And also the person, first of all, he is a combined. He's not just from one like the Malach. In addition to that, he's also dressed up in a body and a vitalizing soul. And therefore, we cannot stand on the same level and the same machshava all of his days. But yet, they do have that ability to bring a korban, do have the ability to be inspired by the fire of the Nefesh Elikis. Still, there is in the power, even though it's not one, it's murkov, we have to deal with a Nefesh Chiyunis, but the godly soul has the power of thirst, which comes from the element of fire to be like a sparkling fire more than even the malach. How could it be that we should have more than the malachim? It would seem like the malachim are on a higher level. So kihi avshe lamato, for although below hine madrei gas ha'odom, that although below the level of the person is grua, it's diminished and it's less than the level of the malachim. And the reason is because below it's dressed up in a body and the vitalizing soul, so it's on a lower level than the malachim. That's where it's dressed up. But the neshama that's dressed up is merely a part, a small part of the bigger part of the neshama, which is not dressed up. And when you tap into that part of the neshama comes from a higher place than the malach, and that's why the tzimoin of the neshama, notwithstanding that it's dressed up in the guf, nefesh chiyunis, can outperform the tzimoin from the malach. So, but the root of the soul above. Now, where is the root of the soul? Various different levels. It can be Bria, Yitzira, Atzilus, even different souls. But each of the soul, Kol Echad Lefi Madregose, each one according to his Madrega, because what does it mean? Each person has, his soul has a level, a counterpart, that part that stays above. Either it's in which, according to the Madrega, some unique people have an neshama of Atzilus, that's the counterpart. So he tells you, because we shouldn't think that the entire neshama comes down. That's not true. It's not the entire soul that is dressed up in the guf. It's only a hooray of it. The root stays above in the place where it was carved out in the supreme world. That's where it was taken from. And the souls in each world are with more force, have a greater infinite level over the madregas of the malachim in that world. So where they come from, the neshamas are higher. The hein oisam neshama is asmam shemispashta harosam lislabish l'matabel mahaza. So and they are the neshamas himself. Those neshamas that are greater than the malachim that expand, their shine expand to dress up below in this world. So that's how we say, the Gemara brings down, Afagav di'u lechazi, mazli chazi. So it talks about over there that the Navi, they saw, but the other, Hanani, Mishov, Azayr, Daniel, so they were trembling. But it says they didn't see the vision of Hashem. But they were trembling. The Gemara says, how were they trembling if they didn't see? The Gemara says they didn't see, but their mazel saw. So that means the counterpart, the neshama above saw. Pirush, Avgel Chaze, Mazle Chaze. The mazel saw. Pirush, Mazlo. What is the meaning of Mazlo? Mazlo is Meloshin Yizal Mayim. It should flow water. It flows from above. We're talking about the source of the neshama above. From that source, it drips, it runs, and extends the Or Lamata. Our neshama is part of it. So what are we saying? We're saying that the Yid is actually on a higher level than the Malachim, and that he's connected, and the soul over here is more level of a higher level than even the Malachim, because in the source, the Neshamas are higher than the Malachim, and from that source comes down the Ha'ara to this one, Yizal. Why are the Yidden on a higher level? Is the Fisher Yisrael Olu b'machshava? Because we say that the Yidden, they entered, so to speak, Hashem's thought. Pirush. So what does it mean? Say, for example, if you try to compare the level of machshava of the person and the level of dibur of the person. The machshava is always working; it's always connected. The dibur, sometimes it works, sometimes not. You can close your mouth. I mean, sometimes you don't have to speak. Yidden come from the level of machshava versus malachim comes from the level of dibur. Pirush kemoy lemoshel ba'adam hagashmi. Say, for example, by the physical person, in a machshavta miyuchedes benafshe, his thought is united with his soul. V'hoyu lachodim yoser midibure, and they are one more than a speech. The machshava is more than speech. Davar nifrod v'yoytze chutz mimenu. The speech is something that's separate, goes outside of him. Ubeyodei lachsim piv b'lishtei. Words leave the person; they go to the outside. Machshava stays with the person. A person goes outside. He can seal his mouth and be quiet. Silence. So he can stop. The soul is full with letters, always thinking. So therefore, Kach, Knesset Yisrael, Mokan Nishamas Yisrael. So likewise, in a similar way, the Mokan Nishamas Yisrael, Olu Umiyuchodim, the Machshava Lo Umiyuchodim, Batzmusei, Muhusei, Batzmusei Mamash. The Yidden have connected to Hashem's Atzmus. Hagam Diksiv, Kiloi Machshavei Sei Machshavei Seichem. So we're saying that there's Machshava by the Eibishter, is the Yidden are in Hashem's Machshava, but it's not the same Machshava like we know, because our Machshava is not like the Eibishter Machshava. A drop of the edge, somewhat of it, our ears can take to learn a little bit al derech moshul. So basically, it means that the person has the level of machshava by the Eibishter. We're using the machshava just for that idea that the nefesh is more connected to the Eibishter even more than the souls are. Elo, through the evolution of the many worlds and the powerful words, the ray of the neshama evolved and expanded to dress up in the body and the nefesh habahamis. So it has that power, tremendous power, but it comes down. But still, it still has the power to dominate the body and the animal soul. To remove that heat that he has in his heart to the pleasures of the world and the desire from the natural element of fire. So that the godly element of fire shall overpower him. So Mishkane believe that the godly life rests in the heart. So that he will be included in the Achdus of Hashem. So while he has to struggle against the heat and the desires of the pleasures that come from the nefesh hachiyunis, from the natural taivus that a person has, he still has the power that the element of fire from the godly can overpower. And when you do that, and by doing that, he also elevates that natural fire which is in his animal soul, that should be included, and it will go up to Hashem like a korban. Since any old times that you overpower with the element of the godly fire, mismayet umiskarer koyach yisoid ha'esha TV, it diminishes and it cools off the power of the natural element of fire, and that is included in kedusha. So that means that you're elevating the korban, your ability to overpower with your godly soul diminishes and takes away from that fire, and you bring it up to Hashem as well. Zehu eish oichla eish, and this means fire that consumes fire. What does it mean? Fire that consumes fire. It means the fire of the nefesh elikis consumes the fire of the nefesh habahamis, nefesh hachyonis. This is actually what took place with the karbonis. That there was a fire of holiness from above. Was consumed the Balei Chaim. The Balei Chaim, the animals, come from the element of fire. And the fire, the godly fire, which came down, that came down from Min HaShamayim, that consumed the animals. So the same thing is, the persons, this is all connected to what? To the Shema Yisrael. We're saying Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, because we're saying if you're reading Shema, it's like ringing a korban without the nesach. So now we're explaining it, why is Shema a korban? So we're saying because the idea of a korban is to fire yourself up and burn the animal. So while the Yid has struggles because he has the different elements, and he has to deal with the Nefesh HaChiyunis who has a desire for Gashmis, but to bring a korban means that you elevate. Base. But still, because it still has to struggle, the element of fire which is in the godly soul, it's measured, it's limited, it rests up in his vitalizing soul. And therefore, when a person uses that fire for matters of his body, because when he gets angry, when he's jealous, and hatred, so that's fire, that's the level of fire. The Alter Rebbe writes in the beginning of Tanya that these are the elements, the negative elements of the fire that come from the Nefesh Habahamis, from the other soul, from Nefesh Chiyunis. And also, and all kinds of desires. So what happens? Mismayet v'nechser min hamida. So this diminishes, and it takes away from the measure. V'shuv lo yislai v'libe kol kam avedis Hashem. So then he no longer will become so excited in the service of Hashem. So what is the advice that can be given for this situation that you're not able to fire up because of all the tivus and the misuse of the body in the element of the nefesh hachiyunis? In Iksiv, you will shine my lamp, and Hashem will make my darkness light. Pirush. Now he's going to tell you how Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad is the fire, helps the fire. Because when he reflects in the belief that there is only one Hashem, be'emes, truthfully, in the depth of his thought and his heart. He's not satisfied just with thinking about in the machshava. So he thinks, oh, Hashem echad, but it doesn't. But he actually not sufficient. He is deeping and he's sticking his thought in deeply. So then the element of the godly fire will shine to him to complete and make up what he is lacking. And that means God will illuminate, will make light his darkness. As the other pasuk says, when I sit in the darkness, Hashem will be my light. Because we need all this help from the Eibishter. That's why we read the Shema twice every day. Over there is explained this concept of this reflection. I said later on. So why do we learn it twice? Because a person, since he's dressed up in the body, and the animal soul, and he's occupied in physical matters all day, it's not possible for him. The only way he can do it is through the Shema. So every day you increase the element of fire, the godly fire, and opposite it, it diminishes and it keeps on diminishing the power of the natural element of fire, and it goes up and it's including Dusha. Until when the days are filled, like the years of the person's life, 70 or 80 years, so all the powers which are in the natural element of fire are diminished, and they'll go up to be included in Kedusha. Now, so here we're saying that even the Nefesh HaBahamis, the Nefesh HaChiyunis, everything goes up in Kedusha. Because by a Yid, even the Nefesh HaBahamis is permanent, stays in the Kedusha, as opposed to the Neshamas of the Goyim. Haneki Yisrael, Gam Koiches Nefesh HaBahamis, Unitzchi. That is eternal. The Nasim Kisel Kedusha. They became a throne for Kedusha, not Kedusha rest in them. Masha'en Kein Ovdik Chavim, as opposed to the Ovdik Chavim, Shenafsha Mahabahamis, Kolov Leches, their Nefesh HaBahamis expires and leaves. Ve'en Lahem Aliyas Klal. They have no Aliyah. Umidas Yimei Chayav. And what is the measure of the person's day of his life that they've given from the heavens? That is the amount that he has to bring up so much power from the vitalizing soul for as many times that he has to read Shema. That's how much life the person has, the life. So to lead the Krishma to help him to overpower the Nefesh HaBahamis. All right.